Hello, and today we will continue with Pervader. Jim Shaw, Ira, and I went to leave the town and look for the agent's hideout on the outskirts. The location was familiar with Wise, and so it had been communicated to us through Marston. So what does this guy look like? He's dark. If we look more talented than this one, hardly need the lady's help to make him stick out. I don't know about that, many widows around these parts. Now I guess we have no ears blending in. Let's not be reckless. There aren't a lot of people outside town, and if this guy is cautious, he might be looking for suspicious folk. Ah, you're right. I might be of use here. If anyone who walks past us starts feeling ill at ease, I'll be able to tell. How's that going to help? If they're anxious, they were too conspicuous. If they're really anxious, then they probably would know about us. Do your powers work next to Jim Saw? Not well enough. It would be best to not walk together. I'll stand back then. My sword might cause unneeded stress and confusion to onlookers anyway. Go ahead. I'll follow at a distance. Jim Saw stood back at the town entrance while Ewa and I were ahead, far enough away that they couldn't hear us talk. I turned around and glanced at him for a moment, receiving his reassuring nod. Worried? Me? A bit, I guess. For yourself or for the Waspman? For everyone. The house should be just up ahead. We had passed this hovel on our way into town. The first time, I don't recall seeing anything strange back then, but we weren't looking for it either. Walk past over there. Although there were only a couple of other commoners around the path, we made sure not to arouse the suspicions and tried to act natural as we found a good place to sit and solitude by the river. The two of us sat by the riverbed, spying at the house through the thick grass. There's someone in that house. I can sense the workings of a mind within it. Is he alone? Yes, unless there's another one masking their presence. I didn't know that was possible. There are a few ways to do it, like your wine poison companion, but I doubt our target makes such friends. If Amulet was around, could you tell? Aye, she could not hide herself from us that way. Girls too drunk on power to even suppress her presence. It's like a stench in the air wherever she goes. Amulet ain't in there. Take our load off. Sit. Throughout the hour, several commoners witnessed us loitering about as he went up and down the road, though Ewa assured us we were seen as just a bunch of friends wasting away the evening. The wind had picked up in an autumn fashion. Weeds and tall grass whipped around against each other in audience to the rushing water. What is he doing there? Do we even know if it's him inside? Not until he shows his face, knocking on his door. Why don't you? I've half a mind to do just that. Probably not a good idea. We need to confirm it's him. Sooner or later, he'll come out the whistle. It might turn dark before that. And then we won't see anything. We're not waiting it out here for that long regardless. It's not wise to suffer the night in foreign places. Jimsaw started walking towards the house. What's the plan, Waspman? My plan is I'll take a closer look around the house while you guys stay out of the sight. Might be able to draw him out somehow or peek inside. Are you sure? Sounds risky. It'll be fine. I was trained for this, remember? You two should stand by in case he bolts. We're not letting him get away. Alan said not to tackle him yet. I know what he said, but if things turn dire, we may not have a choice. I agree with Ramus. We shouldn't push our luck. Jimsaw stared back at us with a flat expression. A moment later, he turned and continued to approach the house. Jim. I wanted to rush after him and pull him back, but something told me it would cause worse trouble than that. I wanted to rush after him and pull him back, but something told me it would cause worse trouble that way. Damn it. Always headstrong, always cocksure, these wasps. Well, let's keep a lookout and make sure he doesn't get into worse trouble. Ellen would kill me if this goes wrong. Ewa and I stood next to a path going alongside the house, away from any windows where we may be spotted lurking, close enough to come to Jimsaw's aid if it is required. Without any others to witness his trespassing, Jimsaw made his way to the walls of the house with perked ears. I was desperate to observe any signs of change in his direction, any surge from him or any shift from inside, anything that would threaten the moment. That's sneaky bent to your friend. I wish there wasn't. He crept along the side of the house, taking care to avoid any windows or uncertain terrain that would compromise him. Then he turned the corner towards the back and he was out of sight. Oh, what are you doing? Aching and nervous at the thought of a scuffle breaking out, I became overly aware of the whistling wind, which had been growing sharper and sharper since we began our vigil. My eyes watered at the incessant strokes of chilling air rushing across my face. The chorus of riverbed creatures had also intensified its dusky herald. It seems like the universe itself wants to confuse my senses at the most critical hour. Suddenly my heart sank. The front door opened. He walked away without concern, apparently unaware of me and Ira standing off to the side. The dark man ambled towards the entrance to town. It seemed to take forever before he was far enough away for us to investigate. Damn it, Jimsaw, where are you? As soon as the agent was out of sight, we rushed to the house. What the hell was that? Was it him? He's our man, all right. Unmistakable. I heard movement than a door. Where's he off to? Seemed like he was headed to town. Don't even think about following him. That's enough danger for today. All right. It wouldn't be prudent to pursue him at this hour anyway. Is anyone else inside? Nobody, he's alone. Can we go back now? Sure. Once we felt safe to leave the area, we made our way back to Marston's. Both of them were relieved to see us finally return. I was beginning to get worried. What news? The guy is holed up in that house as he told us, lady. He's solo as far as we can tell, white for capture. Good, anything else? He left earlier and went into town. Not sure where he's off to. Did you have any luck? Nothing. We couldn't find any one of those who interacted with both the healer and the agent. As far as I can tell, they're gone. We'll have to pay the healer another visit now and see if they've met. Is it wise to go about at this hour? Nights are made for covert action, friend. Fret not, I will confirm it myself. If he returns to his home tonight, then I suggest we not waste the opportunity. At midnight, we pounce. There are neighbors in the area. If he makes noise, it could cause trouble. And so call a veil of silence upon his house with such a ward, nobody outside of it will hear a sound. Your spell won't work with me there. We can do it without your aid. Jimsaw struggled between concern and outrage. Are you mad? I'm your best shot at holding this guy down. He can't use magic without a watchman near. It will break the veil of silence. You know this, and you know it is important to prevent him from summoning help. I will not compromise this ambush just to satisfy your inquisitional ways. A whelp like that agent can be dealt with alone. She's right, lad. He won't be able to escape with all of us there. And if he does elude us, he can give chase. I could see on Jimsaw's face that he would never shake his conviction, yet he had grown tired of squabbling with Alan every time a disagreement arose. As he whispered, Weymouth will be standing back with me. I wouldn't involve Weymouth in this either way. Despite growing more and more confident in my talents every passing day, I continue to struggle to put them to good, reliable use. I'm still a liability, and arresting outlaws has never been my forte anyway. Alan, can I count on your skills? As long as you can wrestle him down, I'll make sure he doesn't go anywhere. The girl and I will have no trouble with that. Do we know what kind of magic he wields? His torso is hidden from sight, yet I do not believe he is anything more than a low-life thug. Regardless of his nature, I expect little resistance. Better to know what you're up against, even when dealing with goons. Surprise is a treacherous foe. Surprise is on our side, but I appreciate your concern. In situations like these, you can't control everything. Nodding heads told we were all in agreement. Soon thereafter, Marston left to spy on the healer. Alan, Jimshaw, and I returned to the inn to rest up and await their signal. Part of me wanted to abandon the plan and instead just go to the guy and try to convince him to take us to Umbro. I never thought we'd end up butting heads with criminals like this when we set out of Chariot. Gimmelborg has offered to let us join when we last met. Is it a mistake to engage in this dangerous behavior instead of just talking? It might make everything worse. Hey, you there? What? You've been sitting there with what? You've been sitting there with that look on your face since we got back. Everything alright? I'm worried and just not too certain about what we're doing. Yeah, tell me about it. He rolled his eyes, though I could tell his frustration with the situation was different than mine. His demeanor softened as he stared back at me. It's gonna be fine. Alan and Marston are more than a match for whoever this guy is, and if push comes to shove, I can step in and make it all stop. Gimmelborg isn't going to like that we attacked one of his own. As long as we're not too rough, it'll be water under the bridge. Besides, they're already in cahoots with Omelette. Whatever Marston does to the guy will be no more underhanded than what they do to the rest of the world. I hope you're right. Hours passed, the sun became the moon, and my unease grew ever more. Marston told us to wait for her signal, but what if she doesn't show up at all? Would we stay up until morning? What if she got herself in trouble? What if she requires aid? Would Ira come and ask for help? Too many things can go wrong, even now before anything has happened yet. The cure to my fear, or perhaps the catalyst to it, came with a sudden knock at the window. Ira glanced through her sure express and gave us an invitation we had been expecting. All right, are you two ready? More than ever. Let's just get this over with. We snuck out the window, wanted to avoid notice from any and all that might be roaming the streets at this hour. Thankfully, Ira knew how to get there without stealing any of the nightly patrols. Watch her step. When everything is dark, the sounds of the rushing river and of the crickets and frogs are so much louder. Here. She was waiting for us near the path where Ira and I had been watching earlier in the day. Did anyone see you? None. Good, then. Is everyone ready? Any questions? Is he alone? Alone and awake. At this hour? He might be waiting for something. Maybe he's going out again. If fortune was kind to us, she would have given us more time to investigate this man and his activities, but we do not have that blessing. Watchman, you'll stand guard. Keep your distance as we discussed. Allow Alan to cast the veil. Jimshaw took several steps back and stood watching. Alan then began to weave his spell with fingers and words. There was no sign that the spell had worked, yet he seemed confident. Blameless, go to Jim's store and tell me if you can hear my voice. I did as he asked, although his mouth moved and I recognized his question, I could not hear a word. Back when we were on the road together, everyone cast a spell like this. A useful trick, but I'd rather be in the thick of things. You should go with them inside. If something happens, I won't be able to hear it. You'll have to come and tell me. I nodded and went back to Ellen. Alright, remember, don't try to get involved. We'll handle it. Monster then circled around back, while Eva and Ellen stood on either side of the front door. The lady will signal to me, and then we move in. You ready? Ellen nodded with confidence. They sprang into action. Eva's fist smashed through the front door, splitting it apart and off its hinges. Umbro! They was through the front door. Grunts and thuds arose from the scuffle before I could even look at what was happening. Marston and Eva both managed to tackle him at the same time, putting a stop to his movements. He struggled to remove the witches from him, but it was of no use. They were much stronger than him. Ellen hurried forth to conjure another spell, manifesting a chain made of purely black material and shackling the prisoner's hands behind his back. Move, there. They then sat him in a chair. Eva held her hand on his shoulder throughout, keeping him in place. Settle down, lad. You ain't going anywhere soon. We all took a moment to let the tension cool down. Alan patted me on the back a couple of times. Go tell Jim Star we got him restrained. I stepped out into the doorway for just a moment to signal to Jim Star that everything was alright. Once he nodded back, I turned back inside. Marston had stepped in front of the man, staring him down. My name is Marston. I'm looking for Umbro. The man said nothing. His face said nothing. We know you're one of them. Tell us where to find your leader, and we'll leave. We do not wish to make enemies of Umbro, despite what you may think. Will you speak? Silence. Do you know Omelette? She's one of your companions. We've been looking for her for a long time, and we know she has been in town. The girl is a dangerous witch. It poses a great risk to her own life. Marston had stepped in front of the man, staring him down. My name is Marston. I'm looking for Umbro. The man said nothing. His face said nothing. We know you're one of them. Tell us where to find your leader, and we'll leave. We do not wish to make enemies of Umbro, despite what you may think. Will you speak? Silence. Do you know Omelette? She's one of your companions. We've been looking for her for a long time. We know she has been in town. The girl is a dangerous witch and poses a great risk to your own life and to your mission. Tell us where we can find her. No reaction. If you will not tell us, I will simply extract the information from your mind. Very well, have it your way. Marston closed her eyes, focusing her efforts on his mind. A short while later, she opened her eyes again. His mind is locked. A witch has watered it. So he does know her. At least he could have said so. I'll need some time to pierce through it. Will it take long? Not too long. Amulet's wards may be strong, but they're not unbreakable. What happens to him afterwards? I'll put him to sleep and make him forget it all happened. Now allow me to focus. Make sure he stays put while I collect his thoughts. She moved a few feet further away from the prisoner and closed her eyes again, falling into a trance. I stared at the man in the chair, somewhat relieved, but still somewhat afraid. My eyes then fell on Alan, though I wasn't sure what I wanted from him. It's almost over. We'll be out of here soon, alright? I nodded hastily. Go check on Zimsar. I'm sure he has a lot of questions. It sounded like a good idea. Indeed, as I walked out, his eyes received me with wide anticipation. What happened? He's all tied up, barely put up a fight. Marston is trying to read his mind. It'll take a while longer. She says his mind is watered. Alright. I guess it didn't turn out too bad then. Standing out here in the cool night air felt a lot better. I started taking long, deep breaths in and out to calm down. Jim started notice. It's almost over, Weymouth. Yeah. I just never thought I'd do anything like this in my life. What about you? Well, I kind of signed up for it. He gave a light chuckle. If it makes you feel any better, this turned out way better than I expected. And how is that, Watchman? My heart sank as I heard the unexpected voice. Louise, the healer, was in front of us, glaring with ire. You, what are you doing here? I was about to ask you the same question. Yeah, I think I know enough. Move, Watchman, or I'll summon the guards. Please, we're not enemies. If you call the guards, your friend inside will be sent to jail with the rest of us. You too as well. Pray tell, why would that ever happen? He may be Umbral, but the Inquisition has no reach in this place. The only criminals here are you. We know you've been smuggling people around. My intuition flared and I spat the accusation at him. It seemed to have taken him aback. Smuggling people? Young man, you mistake deliverance for horror. The poor of this town have no means of thriving, no chance at success, happiness, or even health. Umbral offers them a better life, an offer I am all too eager to extend. There's not enough charity in this world, and your ilk is content with throwing it all away. Enough of this. Strike me down if that is your true nature, or step out of the way. I will see my associate. The healer marched towards Jimsar in the house, and I followed, pleading with him. I glared at Jimsar to see his shore. There's no need for bloodshed. He's going to mess everything up. My friends inside are interrogating him. We only want to know where Umbral is. I care little for your treachery. If we really wanted to cause trouble, we wouldn't do things this way. You refused to help us, as I should have. Weymouth, what's all that commotion? The healer enters the room, outraged at the scene before him. What in the name of mercy is going on in here? How dare you? Marcia's focus had been broken and anger crawled up her face as she opened her eyes. Look at him. You turned him catatonic. You call yourselves Pervaders? Seize us immediately. The witch had grown tired of the healer's protest. She leaped on him and wrestled his arms behind his back. Listen here, fool. You're getting yourself involved in things that do not concern you. What is happening? My mind. You dare to use your witchery on me? I'll break your arm off if you don't stop making such a ruckus. You are a fiend. With a flick of the wrist, the healer weaved a spell quick enough to notice, but not enough for anyone to react in time. Abolish! Suddenly, there was a pinch in the air. Something had changed. The chain. Before Ira was able to realize what had happened, the man pushed himself up. Ugh. His fist sank into Ira's belly. The force of the blow launching her upwards impaled upon one of the ghostly blades he had conjured and wielded on top of his arms. Her eyes became beady, and she suffered. Ira! He threw her to the ground, bloody and half-breathing, then turned to face us. The healer was as shocked as the rest of us. Why? Why go so far? We stood up, looking at the man. Why do it? Why? Not like this. Not like this. Please, why? But the man was just as silent as before. I felt frozen and brittle, as if any tiny movement would threaten to break us all apart into tiny pieces. One of us is already lying on the floor, bleeding and dying. This man can kill. Alan reached with his arm to push me away from the murderer. Step back, he's not himself. But then he charged forwards. We all knew he wouldn't be able to squeeze through the doors in time. As the attacker lunged forward, Alan conjured a black shield in front of us to deflect the blow. Get out of here! Move! The healer scrambled out first as the hits began to chip away at our defense. I could hear the sounds of his ethereal blades brushing up against the dark cell. Every blow was forceful and mad, like a boulder crashing from a high mountain. Alan struggled to keep up with the spell, and I was desperate to help him escape somehow. Washington, you need to leave. I'm not abandoning Iowa. We need to take this outside. We can't keep it up much longer. The jails continued, but they started carving away at the sides of Alan's shield. I can't. A moment later, Alan's shield faded. The man lunged through. The conjured blades had evaporated as soon as they came too close. His empty fist only found the watchman's coat, a punch he could easily take. Jimsaw's strike was deadlier, however, driving his sword through the man's chest. He crashed to the ground with a thud. Marston scrambled to her apprentice on the floor. No, Iowa! Before I could regain my composure, I noticed an unsettling twist in Jimsaw's arm. Jim, are you alright? Yeah, Sweat began pouring down the sides of his head. He struggled to hold his blade, lifting it up and noticing the disturbance himself. Yeah. Alan, Jimsaw is... His trembling turned violent. Unable to control himself, he crashed to the floor. Alan! He's disquieting. Oh no. I knelt next to him, holding him down as he convulsed and began grunting in pain. It hurts. Alan, what do we do? Keep him from thrashing. I turned to look up and saw Wise standing over the honorable agent's dead body. Holy mercy. Healer, save her, please, I beg of you. Yes, stand aside. Ella glanced at me as we struggled to keep Jimsaw steady. Raymond, you need to keep him still, alright? I'm going to talk to Marston. Okay. I did my best to keep him from moving, but his movements were so wild and strong. I don't want to die. You're not going to die. No time to think right now. Just do. I glanced up at them to see what they were doing. Marston, Jimsaw is disquieting. Can you help? I can't stop it. Not without poison in his body. Sweet mercy, hold it here. Put pressure on the wound. Then I looked back at him. His eyes were rolling in every direction as if he had become possessed. He began screaming in agony. His voice became a ceaseless caterwaul, unlike anything I had ever heard before, and it seemed as if his thrashings got more and more violent. Wrap this around the wound. The healer stood up and came to look at Jimsaw. Darn foolish boy, mercy. He searched through his bag and pulled out a small bottle with a substance inside it. What's that? And to act against the poison in his body. Afterwards, the witch can use her magic on him. Hold the boy stiff. I need to make him ingest it. Wise struggled to open Jimsaw's mouth to feed him the antidote. Darn hell, his jaw is clamped shut as a vice. Ah! There you go. He managed to pour the substance in his mouth, then held his head as straight as he could to make sure it went down. How long until it works? A day. A day? Can he survive that long? Pray for him, and keep him from thrashing about too much. I'll check back in a minute. Healer, she's gone unconscious. He stood up and rushed back to Ira while Alan came back to help me hold Jimsaw down. How is he? I don't think he's aware anymore. Alan, is he going to be alright? Please tell me he'll be fine. We'll save him. They don't teach you any healing at the Coven. It wasn't part of my training. I stared up at the old bear. Alan, Wise needs help. Are you sure? I'll be here with Jim. Don't let her die, please. He nodded and stared at us for a while, fearful as apprehensive as I ever see him. Then he turned away. I gripped onto Jim Saw's body, holding his arms and legs down with my own. You'll get through this. Ugh. Between his screams, he would find moments where he would calm down just long enough to take in a couple of deep breaths before going at it again. I'm not letting you get away. His eyes were lost and pale, scanning every spot on the ceiling like a madman. But every once in a while, I would catch his stare and feel him looking at me. I'm not letting you leave me yet. Throughout the night, Jim's thrashing and screaming seemed to have subdued somewhat, yet he was still not present. Once they managed to stop Ewa's bleeding and seal her wound, Marston turned to help Jimsaw. Can you do anything while he still has the etherine in his body? Not through magic, but I know a few tricks that will help. Although witches weren't able to treat wounds like healers, they still had a good understanding of the body. By applying pressure to specific points, she was able to set off many of his muscles. This will stop the thrashing. If he does that too long, he'll die from exhaustion. What about the pain? If he's strong, he'll keep fighting until I can put an end to it. If he does survive through the next day, the pain will scar him for the rest of his life. He'll need you to get through it afterwards. Anything it takes. With the door broken down and the night chill creeping in, I felt ill at ease. By morning, a local will have noticed the disaster. Alan seemed to have understood my worried glances and got to work putting the door back together on its hinges. Might as well use this place for Ira and Jonesford to heal. It's not like anyone else is going to need it anymore. I haven't had time to think about all that has happened, and I'm not sure if I can do it yet. I need to be strong for both of them. Mercy. With Ira being cared for and Jonesford resting in bed, we were all feeling some level of respite for everything that happened. Now it's just a waiting game. I loomed over in the dark. The thrashing had almost completely subsided, and errant twits here and there remained, but it was expected and harmless. I didn't need to stay with him throughout it all, but it felt wrong to move away from his bedside. Now most of his struggling is happening within, alone and away from all of us. You shouldn't have killed him. You shouldn't have done this to yourself. I didn't want to believe he couldn't hear me. I wanted to bring him down so he couldn't hurt us. Jim, oh Jim. His painful grunting had softened, reduced to scratching wheeze. Every time he muttered through his trembling lips, I stopped to listen, desperate to hear a message, a word, anything. I held on tight, not to restrain him, but to keep him from fading away. At least that's how I felt. What else could I do? Come back to us, please. I struggled with my thoughts and feelings throughout the entire ordeal. He might die. No. I carve out that thought and throw it away. No matter how many times it comes back, I refuse to accept such a thing. I sat by his bedside and held his hand, feeling his warmth. Leaning back in my chair had allowed fatigue to fester within me, or maybe I had grown too weak to resist it any longer. My watering eyes made it difficult to keep vigil. I tried to shake myself awake a couple of times, but eventually sleep seized me. The black emptiness surrounds me. I don't know where to go. The dream pulls me into its jaws. How could I do such a thing at a moment like this? Yet I allow it to take me. I find myself drifting into a whirlpool of hopelessness, falling in and away from everything. Perhaps I wanted to be swallowed up by the void like Jim, share the same fate, and we might see each other. My saddle guest greets me as I land. I gaze up at him, unsure if my tears have followed me into this place. What do saddles know of pain? He stared back at me with his usual dispassion. Useless. I turned away, resigning myself to the gloom, and sat down cross-legged on the ground, digging my fingers into the grains and sand and looking out into the vast, gray emptiness above. Everything here is as hopeless and useless as I feel right now. No life, no movement, no potential, nothing. Maybe this is where I belong. Maybe this is who I really am. Is that why I keep coming here? The saddle took a few steps forwards, arriving at my side, looking down on me. What do you want? I was aghast at his nerve that bothered me at such a terrible moment. Seeing his lord's tenebrous frame from down here reminded me how strange and obscure this being really was, and how careless I had grown in its presence. Then he knelt down to look at me. Seeing him do such an ordinary gesture surprised me. His pointed stare pierced deep. Although his eyes were lost in the blur of black, white flames, I could sense the feeling behind him. They spoke in ways words never could. He cared. Everything turned black again. Alone in transit once more, between reality and imagination. It is time to go back already? Part of me didn't care to emerge yet. The uncertainty lingered until another feeling began to creep on me. Am I alone? This dark corridor has always been just a gap between places, the stitching at the edge of what is real and unreal, the pause which occurs in the blink of an eye. I am not alone. Oh. As I turn around to look, Jim, we see each other at the same moment. Jim, I yelled out as we rushed towards each other. For a moment I thought it was all a dream. I threw my arms around him and held him tight, just long enough to convince myself he's real. I let go to take a better look at him. He was so weak and tired, deathly and beady-eyed, full of anguish mannerisms, yet full of relief as well. His lips moved as if to speak, but I couldn't hear a word. What? I can't hear you. He was as confused as I was. He can't hear me either. His eyes followed my lips as I said it, then he nodded and mouthed the same thing. The grief and confusion on his face rattled me. It really is him, and he's suffering. I held his hand in mine and stared him right in the eye. He cannot hear me, but he must understand. We're going to get you out of here. Be strong. We have to be strong. We're going to get you out of here. Be strong. You have to be strong. He shook his head in the haze of confusion and apprehension. Witnessing his tense and twisted movements made me feel awful. I grabbed him by the shoulders. You'll get through this. I wanted to cry, but a deeper part of me made the decision to be fearless. I pulled him into a hug again and held him close. All I could think about was trying to comfort him. He held on to me just as tightly. His convulsions became mine. I couldn't suffer the way he suffered, but I desperately wanted him to know he was not alone. I wanted to be his anchor, to keep him from drifting away into the sea of anguish, solitude. I wanted to share in his burden and endure it with him. This place is too dark for someone like him. He doesn't deserve any of this. Jim, my worry for him had clouded my mind. The darkness became more and more oppressive. Suddenly, I realized I could no longer feel his touch. I took a step back. He was gone. I was alone again. The black void began to crumble around me. Hang in there, Jim. Some time had passed. The sun outside was burning bright, and it smelled like morning and death. My body ached all over. Sleeping in the chair had made my neck stiff. Jim was still lying unconscious in bed, knowing that he's still in there hiding under the surface and struggling against the pain disheartened me. I longed to see him whole again. Ramus, the old bear approached. Hey, how are you holding up? I'm fine, still awake and breathing. I looked up at Alan and took in his soothing, fatherly gaze. The fur on his arms and hands was dirty with dry blood, though he had made an effort to wash himself of it. At the other end of the room, Washington was attending to an unconscious Ira. They had retreated her throughout the night without much commotion. My concern for Jimstar had overshadowed everything else, including her injury. How's he doing? Ira lost a lot of blood. The blade pierced through her and cut her insides, but she's breathing. We were lucky the doctor was here to save her. Strong lass. I noticed someone was missing. Where's Rise? He left a little while ago. Said he will return later to check up on her. Looking around, I spotted in the corner of the room the backpack I had left back at the inn. Alan followed my glance. I went back to the inn this morning. We won't be staying there anymore, so I gathered all of our things. Watson and I talked and we decided to hook it down here for a couple of days. Simsor and Ira cannot be moved. Once they get better and are able to stand on their own feet, we can move out into a safer place. The risk is that dark fellow may have had friends, and they may decide to check up on him if they find us here. He sighed. It's best avoided. Sorry, I do not want to burden you more, but I thought I should tell you. No, I understand. Thank you. He smiled as best as he could muster under the strength. You barely slept. It's fine. I shut my eyes for a little while. That may be, but you've been sitting in that chair stiff as a board. I couldn't sleep even if I wanted to. Not right now. As concerned as he was for me, Alan looked terribly tired. Did you get any sleep? He sighed and shook his head. Haven't found good moments. Then now's your moment. I'll keep watch. Are you sure? Of course, don't worry. Alright, if you're certain. But if anything comes up, don't hesitate to wake me up. Alan stepped away and left me alone with Jimstar. My eyes stung as I stared at my unconscious friend again. There was nothing else I could do for him. Powerless to help the ones you care about. Powerless to protect them from harm. Why must I be so weak? Why must I only twiddle with hopes and prayers where I am capable of magic? I'd give anything to have him back. Marston had crept up on me as I mulled over my frustrations. In that moment, anger flourished within me. I blamed her for her weakness and for leading us into this mess. A powerful witch like you should be able to weave all sorts of miracles to save him, regardless of what is happening. If I had your power, I would keep trying until I could no longer stand. But the moment passed, my anger subsided and returned to Saul, and I remembered she was the only one who could save him. She looked at me with kind and gentle eyes, glancing over Jimstar as well. Your friend is not giving up. I don't think he can give up. It's not his way. Where does he get the strength? I'm not sure. There's a fire inside him. It makes him so passionate and brave. Ever since we met, he's been on point and eager to get things done, but I won't let him. I thought I was like him once when I was younger, before I came here. You've been burned. I don't want to stumble into more trouble than I have already. I try to be careful because when I'm not, something bad happens. All this could have been avoided if I wasn't trying so hard to be different. Coming here to this country, trying to stop those thieves from stealing, getting in their way, I tried to be a hero. And now I can't be careful, because doing that means I lose everything and the people I love. There's the nature of life, young Weymouth. The world is home to peace as much as it is a conflict. We all strive to find balances in our lives and to remove that which bedevils us It is its own battle. Your story is no different than any other man's. Just as a farmer must remove the weeds from his plot, you must uproot that which plagues you. The only difference is the weight upon your shoulders. Whether light or heavy burden seeks easement. Is that the only difference to you? Is it the only difference that matters? I understand your pain. I can feel it. Hurt varies, but it itself changes nothing. Take comfort in the idea that you have a choice. You will inevitably make the correct one. What is the correct one? To keep fighting. This is what your friend is doing. You may think that some foolish decisions have brought you to this point, and were you to choose differently, you may have avoided the current predicament. Yet, I believe other paths will have led to worse outcomes. The harsh weight in her tone steered my attention. The thing which animates Ramus has landed you in this pit, but it is also what will make you soar to new, unfathomable heights. Part of me believed her. Part of me wanted to tell her to go away if she wasn't going to do something useful. I don't know what it means for me to keep fighting. Nothing I can do will bring Jimsar back. You can hope. That's not helpful. I wanted to say it to her face, but realized it wasn't helpful either. I saw him in my dreams. She nodded. It wasn't just a dream, though. He was really there. I believe you. Although she spoke plainly, I feared she might think I was very delusional. I tried to talk to him, but he couldn't hear me. I couldn't hear him either, but we saw each other. It is not unheard of for magic to allow one to share dreams. If I manage to connect with him like that, then why can't you? You have that power. I do not. I don't. You've been touched by ancient magic. That is what your circle reflects. You should know by now that it hides many talents. It wasn't me. I wasn't alone. Someone else led me to Gemsword. Ramus, I cannot hasten his cure. Then help me make sense of this. There's someone in my dreams who allowed us to meet. Her unflinching expression was hard to interpret. You see my thoughts. I let you in. You must have seen him back then, that shadowy figure. Tell me you've seen him. His black-white flames flicker in my mind. I feel a sudden rush of thoughts. The room appears to grow. Cracks in the walls look sharper. A flickering candle roars like a bonfire. I feel Marston's heart. It beats faster than normal. She breathes gingerly, yet I perceive it as winds rampaging through a valley. Her eyes lock into mine. We both look deep within each other into the fire. My awareness suddenly breaks apart, returning everything to normal, and I flinch. I regain my composure, her expression softer. I'm sorry, young Ramus. It is not my place to interpret your dreams. But you did something real. You took me to him. Then shall he take you elsewhere as well? She shook her head in resignation and sighed. In the future, there may come a time when you will have sorted out your adult dreams. You will not need me to answer about the nature of these things, to see the things you see in that order of place. Yet questions will remain. At that time, I might be able to help you, but only at that time. For now, you will have to navigate without me. I don't care about any of that. The only thing that matters is bringing Jimsor back. Jimsor will be back. Your visit has given him the strength to push on until we can rescue him. Don't you see? You're giving him something to cling to. You're giving him hope. I ask that you trust me. Trust that this is the only way forward. Her evasive talk has added to my frustrations. It seems like regardless of what I want, I am destined to do nothing and be helpless. And at the same time, she renewed my confidence. She is convinced Jimsor will come back, and now I am closer to believing that as well. The only thing I can do is wait and hope. The rest of the day passed slowly, as it tends to happen when you're awaiting something. Alan had woken up. Ewa too. You need to let it heal. This only a scratch, my lady. Believe whatever merciful fantasy you desire. If you do not stop moving, I'll be forced to restrain you. Although Ewa was too weak to walk, the way she spoke of it, you think she had only experienced a fresh wound. Later I had calmed down enough to allow myself to get some proper rest. A pillow and a blanket in the corner of the room was enough, just for a little while. The dream eluded me this time as much as I wanted to see him again. I knew that finding Jim in sleep might be more torturous and helpful for both of us. Instead, I surrendered to fatigue. My sleep would be restful. When I came to, Rise had returned and the outside dust gave itself to night. I also noticed the dead body had been moved and hidden away. The three of them were hovering around Jim's. Marston touched his forehead, seeking through her senses. I stood up and hurried to join them. The counter poison will have finished its job soon. Can you reach him? He is nearing. I can almost get in. How is he? Alive and fighting still. His mind is almost over to me. I think he knows we're coming. Oh, mercy. I knelt by his bedside and stared at his anguished face. Do it as soon as you can, please. Then I will begin. It will take a while to find an uninterrupted path through the poison's aura as it clears up, so I will need to focus. So I give him a sedative? No need. I will not allow him to awaken until the treatment is finished. Once it is done, however, he may still struggle and be in need of assistance. She swept her gaze over each of us. I need space to concentrate. We all nodded and took a few steps back. Her eyes caught me. Not you, Raymond. I want you to sit next to him. Your presence will help Jimstar find his way back. Okay? The room fell silent. Not a whisper could be heard, save for each other's breathing. I held his hand and waited. Jimstar's occasional twitching had grown less and less frequent over the hour until there was no more movement. It disturbed me to see him so still, although it should be a good sign. I was desperate to see some change in Jimstar's body, that his eyes would open, or that he'd speak something anyone could understand, any sign that he was still here with us. His breathing had gotten softer, which made me even more anxious. Change was coming, but I wasn't sure if it was good or bad. Once it was done, Marston tilted her head upwards and leaned away from him, taking in a big breath. Is it over? Almost. After she regained her composure, Marston leaned over him and pressed a finger against his abdomen, finding those same points of pressure as before. Then she moved to his shoulder, then to his upper arm. One by one, she put everything back as it once was. Afterwards, she stood up and concentrated again. Jimstar opened his eyes. They were lost for a moment, but then we found each other. Ramus. Jim. My grip tightened over his hand. I wanted to dive into his arms and hug him, and tell him how happy I was to see him again. How are you feeling? My head, it aches, it hurts. This quiet leaves its mark, regardless of how much suffering it abolishes. Pain will linger. Avoid those memories. It stings so bad. He stood up in bed as if he had just awoken from a nap, running his hand through the tuft of his hair on top of his head, scratching and pressing. Jim, let the boy walk. He suffers no physical ailment. He stood up, grasping his head and trying to shake off the pain. Whatever inner torment caused him to twitch before, it still pressed. Damn it. Marston, please, can you make it stop? He's still suffering. I cannot do more without risking more injury. I'm sorry. Jimstar, you must find balance. Gritting his teeth, he scurried towards the door, almost slamming it off its hinges again. He went outside. Jim, wait. It will take time before he grows accustomed to his new condition. At last, it's better to get worse before it gets better. Where the boy will live. Now you must help him find peace. I was outside and followed him. Jimson was pacing back and forth in front of the house, clawing at the top of his head and tugging on his ears like a madman. Hey, he groaned and kicked at the grass in a desperate search for relief, but it wasn't coming. You'll get through this, okay? Amos, it feels like it's digging into my skull. I grabbed him by the shoulder and pulled him into a hug. It's going to be alright. You fought and won. You'll win this one too. It hurts. It hurts so bad. I struggled to calm him down for what must have been an hour. His outbursts didn't stop, but gradually he became used to what was happening to him. I stayed with him throughout all of it, making sure that he wouldn't actually injure himself. Eventually he was able to get a hold of himself and withstand the pain. I'll help you get through this. You will get through this. I swear it. He rode through the ordeal, at times sitting on a bench together in the chill moonlight night, other times pacing back and forth along the path and scattering the crickets. Jim sought to distract himself from the pain with walking motions, or letting himself be caressed by the cutting breeze. Alan checked up on us every once in a while. I told him with a quick glance not to worry and to not get involved. Amos, what is it? I saw you. You were there. I know. It was so dark and so lonely. I wasn't sure if I had died. It felt like hell. You braved it. You came out on the other side alive. I don't know how much longer I could have. You don't have to worry about that anymore. You're here now. Focus on getting better. She said it won't stop. It won't hurt like this forever. I know I'm trying. I'm trying to get through it. His voice had grown sad and weary. When I saw you, I was so relieved. It was like being alive again. You can't understand, Amos. It's alright. It's alright. His red eyes simmered in the moonlight. You were there for me, and I had nothing else. He sniffed and wiped away the tears, clearing his throat and trying to shake away his embarrassment. Thank you. I'd do anything for you. We spent a little while longer out there. Jim had regained much of his composure, though you could see it on his face whenever a pang of pain shot through him. Once he felt he could keep it under control, we went back inside. Everyone settled down into their beds and blankets. It was finally time to have a normal night's rest. Jim so returned to his bed, and to my surprise he managed to fall asleep without much trouble, as did everyone else. My mood stayed restless, however. Try as I might, I couldn't drift away. I stood up and sat next to him, watching him sleep, studying his movements. The twitches hadn't vanished completely, but otherwise he was as peaceful as he had ever been. I wanted to be happy about it, and I was, at least a little bit, although the worst is over. I couldn't shake away my worries. Marston has brought you back, but you're still tormented by the lingering disquiet. I can't stand the thought of it. You may have to live with this for the rest of your life. And for what? For trying to protect us? Tears were welling up in my eyes. You don't deserve this. You're too good to have this happen to you. I wish I could take away your pain. The next 2 days we spent recovering. I had taken up the duty of watching over Jim's and Ira, as well as running errands out in town to buy food and check if Umbro had revealed itself. As wise is to be believed, we should be seeing them out in the open soon. That will be our opportunity to get closer. It all was quiet so far. Were they lurking behind dark corners? We could not seek them. Not until they got better. Wounds may heal over time, but the scars remain, and scars too require attention, more if they go beyond the flesh. Outwardly, Evo seemed to have made a full recovery. The puncture had sealed up, and even the scapular she had worn had been mended, thanks to Alan's touch. Although she spoke with the same bravado as before, there were moments where she would pause for a moment too long, enough to betray her inner caution. She wouldn't admit it, but I think she felt relieved upon hearing Washington's decision and came that morning in their hideout, where we had all moved in together. I'm afraid it is time to halt our investigation. Ira and I will be returning to Coven. What of Omelette? Now that we know what funds she keeps, it will not be difficult to find her again. I need to review the situation with my sisters. Amulet's defiance of the mind and involvement with Umbro has complicated things. You know we are going to find them, with or without your help. And no doubt you will manage on your own, and I wish you the best of luck. I'm sorry. Her heavy heart spoke through her words. This is to keep Ewa safe, more than anything else. Before they left, we were given the reins of their hideout. The next day I woke up in relative silence. Good evening, Alan. Good morning, Alan. Hey. He sized me up with a caring smile, as he would do sometimes. Now that Jimso's life wasn't hanging in the balance anymore, Alan would no doubt continue to fuss about my well-being. Fresh bread and a few boiled eggs lay on the table, inviting me to break my fast. How are you feeling this morning? Well enough. Where's Jimso? I'm not sure. He left at sunrise and said he would be back soon. I was waiting for you to wake up before going out to look for him. A quick glance back across the room told me he had taken his sword and nothing else. Don't worry, I'll find him. Do you know where he is? Maybe. Alright, I'll trust you to it then. He sighed profusely as he turned and glanced towards the door. I'll be heading out as well to do a quick run by the tavern and notice boards. See if there's been any news. Umbro is going to show up any day now, and we need to be ready. He then gave me a concerned look. About Jimso. You've been with him throughout all of this. Do you think he is strong enough to push on? I would be shocked if he lets this stop him. I know he's relentless, truly the monster's son, but I worry if he's going to injure himself. What do you mean? Disquieting pains on top of his dagger injury on top of other troubles. Alan shook his head aside. When so much pressure piles on someone, it's likely to break them. I'm starting to wonder if this journey will end up causing him more harm than good. He doesn't have anywhere else to go. Yes, true. I'm sorry. Forget I said anything. Ramblings of an old man. I promised that I would keep you two safe, and I haven't been doing a good job of that. You've done more than good, but we can't control everything, Alan. Keep him close to you from now on, alright? He trusts you more than me. God knows he needs someone in his corner, and I don't want him to go through it all alone. Although I had already made a promise to myself to support Jimso throughout his ordeal, it was nice to hear Alan being just as committed as I was. Later, Alan and I left the apartment together. We parted ways, him heading up towards the marketplace when I followed the street back down. I'm going to stop right here. Okay, so fortunately, Jimso is going to make it, though he does have to suffer from some injuries due to that Umbro agent. Though they did manage to get some information out of his mind, the Umbro's agent, since he wouldn't cooperate. So obviously, Ramus, Alan, and Jimso are gonna split from Marston and Ira. The two groups are gonna go in their separate ways, and they're gonna go back to the Coven, and Ramus, Jimso, and Alan are gonna continue their journey here in Tinderhall, and I wonder if they're gonna run into Umbro or the Inquisition. It's probably going to happen, so we'll see you next time. So thank you all very much for watching. Goodbye.